I'm Estelle Bingham, and this is the Love Purpose Connection podcast. Here on Love Purpose Connection, I want to explore how to discover and really develop the secrets of a good life. I'm a holistic therapist and healer, and so over this series, I'll be sharing frank, inspiring, sometimes raw, often joyful conversations with a different guest each time, exploring just what those three words really mean, but also crucially, how you can discover and develop them in your own life. Today on Love Purpose Connection, I'm talking to model, body positivity activist and mental well-being advocate, Shareefa J. Shareefa has made her name as a plus-size model and as someone who's used her Instagram to share honest and personal messages about self-care and self-acceptance, especially through the pandemic. It's actually through her Instagram that I first came across Shareefa and was really struck by her powerful energy, positivity and courage. What I want to share with you from our conversation is her story of self-acceptance. At different moments in her life, Shareefa has had to confront huge feelings of rejection and isolation, feelings that many of us recognise. But it's out of the adversity and discomfort that she's really learned how to grow new and different parts of herself. And that's what I think you'll find truly inspirational. Shareefa, welcome to the Love Purpose Connection podcast.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good, and I'm really happy to see you. And the first thing I want to speak to you about, I spotted you on Instagram. And so what it was, Shareefa, was this energy that exudes from you. And my work is all about energy. And really, a massive part of my work, when people come to see me, is about embodiment and what it feels like in a very, very deep way to be embodied, to be in the body, to feel safe in the body, to love the body, and to find that place of peace. So what I was really struck by when I saw some of your Instagram lives was this sense of embodiment.
Thank you. I mean, that feels like a compliment to me. I think a lot of us really struggle to be at peace with ourselves and be at one with ourselves. And I think I'm also still probably on that journey, even though outwardly, I guess, I think I do represent quite a confident woman. I've been told that a lot, but I think probably I've been told that more by people who follow my social media or people who I've come across at events. I think as my friend Tori Ellen Martin, who's an amazing woman and she's an actor and she's just wonderful, and I've learned so much from her as a person and as a friend. She talked to me once about this concept of having a shiny cloak, this shiny cloak of armor that sometimes when you go out into the world you put on. And I think very often this shiny cloak is kind of how you present yourself. It's like a protection method, but it's also like this extra part of your personality. And I think that this very confident me, even though it is in there, a lot of it is my shiny cloak. I have learned, and I learned from a really young age, to smile through the difficult things. I had quite a tumultuous upbringing. So I think my thing was always smile. I was always like little comedy queen as a kid. I was always like the person who'd be like dancing or singing or smiling, or even if I didn't really feel that way. So as much as there definitely is this really confident side of myself, I do think there is a shiny cloak.
So what you've mentioned is really the mask. So the mask that got you through your childhood, that's a coping mechanism, right? And then the shiny cloak energetically is actually a way of protecting the aura. It's a way of being in the world and presenting and actually tapping into our potential. So when we look at Shareefa on the front of Running Magazine, it's actually who you are. You're not in mask mode. You're actually emerging. You're emerging as Shareefa, that really extrovert, that confident, amazing woman. Like you say, it's a work in progress. So I think actually there are two things that are kind of separate. But, and I think that shiny cloak is a way to stay really protected in the world, but also it's a way to shine. It's like it's truth, isn't it? Because you are shiny.
That's really interesting. I never thought about it like that. And certain things definitely do make me feel shinier. My industry is very fickle, and what I do is based, or has been up until the last couple of years, based entirely on what I look like. And most of what I did really was just modeling. And like, you don't have a voice, you don't really have an identity. You mold yourself to the identity of these brands. And one day people want to book you and love how you look, and oh, your hair is so on trend, and your skin is so on trend, and you're all, yeah, we want plus size girls now. Well, yeah, we're looking for this. Oh no, now we're going with brunettes, or now we want redhead girls. You know, it's so fickle. And then if you don't get that external validation by booking those big jobs, then it can impact that bright energy. And so I've had to really learn over the years to get the validation from within.
You got to find the belief, right? You got to have the self belief, and not rely on external validation.
Yeah.
Behind the shininess there's a whole story there, and that's the story sort of also of being human. It's what does it feel like one week when you've been up for 5 jobs and haven't got them? What do you do? What do you say to yourself, Shareefa?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question. And I also think it's really important that we talk more honestly about dealing with rejection. Because going back a little bit to like 2017, I moved to Australia to pursue a modeling contract that I was offered. And at the time, I wasn't really booking that much work. I did have a modeling agency in London, but they were always making me straighten my hair and wear wigs and change myself. And it was making me feel really sad because, yes, I'm a model and I'm a blank canvas, but I felt really strongly that if I want to represent Black women, I want to represent myself and what I believe in. And I've never wanted to straighten my hair because, you know, I got bullied for my hair my whole entire life. I grew up in Norwich. Everyone in Norwich is, at the time when I grew up, everyone was white. I was the only brown kid in my school. And, you know, I was heavily bullied for my hair and my skin color. But I always felt very strongly, even as a young kid, that I didn't want to change it because this is who I am. Why? What's wrong with it? You know, I always had this thing of like, there's something wrong with you, nothing wrong with me. And I was really defiant and adamant. So when I got into the world of modeling, I did come up against people constantly asking me to change my hair. You know, can you change your hair? Can you gain weight? Can you lose weight? Can you do this? But the hair thing was such a big thing because at the time, plus size models really only had one look in the industry. It was this very like sexy beauty kind of vibe. So anyway, fast forward a bit, decided, do you know what? I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And I got offered this contract in Australia. So I thought, I'm going to go because I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. So at the time I was working in a restaurant, cleaning toilets as well on the side. And then I went to Australia with my contract, got off the plane. As soon as I got off the plane, my phone started ringing. It was my agent, and she was like, "Hi, hi, welcome to Australia. You've been booked on a campaign, so you need to get yourself ready for your campaign tomorrow." So what followed from 2017 was just this whirlwind of booking so much work when I lived in Australia. Like I went from like not really being able to be myself and work to being able to like ditch the wigs, and booked almost every job that I booked when I was in Australia. I had my natural hair and I was on like billboards, and you know, you'd walk down the high street and there's just like pictures of me everywhere. I was like, what's going on? This is actually a madness. So that experience really validated me, obviously, because I come from having all these issues to suddenly being like, we love you.
I mean, pretty powerful time for you. You were definitely on a roll.
I was really on a roll. So I was on a roll for a good couple of years, absolutely just loving life. Moved back to the UK, hit the ground running, booking every job. I was walking down Oxford Circus, and there was me, big picture of me, another billboard of me, jobs booked flowing in. And again, feeling like, yes, finally people get me and my look. They're not trying to change me, they're letting me be myself. And then enter the pandemic. Enter 2020, the year of hell for everyone. And then enter the opposite of external validation. Enter like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. Because I was also seeing other girls working. And this, I say this, I have this little phrase that I've been saying for years, and it's not even my phrase, it's someone else's, but I like it so much that I just say it all the time. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it really is. That rang true for me in the pandemic when all we had was social media really to connect. No one's booking me. All my jobs were cancelled straight away. I'm so disposable. I've built my life around this job, and now I don't have this job, and who am I without it? I had spent so many years just like plugging energy into what I do. It became who I was, or I thought it became who I was. I thought that modeling was all I was. If I don't have that, then who am I and what is this? And so I had to really like claw some sort of like sense of self back from this. When the world is not here, what kind of person do I become? And that sparked a lot of changes in me. One being that I went vegan, plant based. That was a huge one. I spent a lot of time researching the world and the environment and animal agriculture. Also, like, who was I when the world was not the world? Like, I was just by myself most because I spent so much time by myself. My personality almost changed. Like, earlier on, I said I was a real extrovert. I became really introverted and started to really enjoy and love my own company and struggled to be around people and gain energy from people. So it was like almost a shift in my personality. But what came out of all of this, the adversity has grown a different part of myself. I feel like I've moved into a more authentic space with who I am, what I put out online and what I put out of myself, what jobs I take. It all comes, we said this earlier, and it sounds simple, but it's not that simple. It comes from within, and I think it really comes from discomfort and challenges and finding yourself in those things. So leaning into the discomfort, leaning into the pain, listening to the silence. I spent a lot of time in the last year or so, or during the lockdown periods, actually being quite silent. Like, I'd have no music on, potter around the house completely alone, like nothing going on outside in the world because everyone was in their houses, and there was so much silence, and then like in that gave me the space to think, and I think it really helped me kind of to develop my sense of self.
One of the reasons why I love doing what I do is just the empowerment of understanding who we are. So to really own our own intuition.
Yeah, I really wanted to finish the rest of that story on validation, because in between then, I should also mention that I got signed with my dream agency. I got signed with Wilhelmina Models, which is currently my agent. And I had actually had a picture of Wilhelmina, their model board. I had it stuck on my wall in my bedroom before Australia. And I also had it on my iPad. And I'd like photoshopped an image of myself on the model board right next to Robin Lawley, who's an amazing model who I've worked with and over the years, but I didn't know her. To me, she was like the pinnacle of like an amazing plus size model, and I want to be there right next to her. And then, yeah, fast forward, and I'd done all this work, and I got signed with Wilhelmina, and actually my face ended up being like right next to Robin Lawley's face on the model board, which was crazy because it was like, was it the power of the universe? And who knows?
It was that moment where you visualized that,
Yeah.
and then it came to pass, and that's really what visualization and manifestation is all about. So let's have a think about that energy, because what's really interesting is it's like living in, I suppose, 5D rather than 3D.
Yeah, my friends joke about me being an oracle. I have like a folder on my phone of where I kind of predict stuff, and it just comes true, and I just screenshot all the things, and then when they happen, I'm like, I told you. Or I write them down and I send them to my friends. I'm like, this thing happened at 2 p.m. today, and I knew it was going to happen. I've always been like it.
If you can write something down and at 2 p.m. it happens, it means that you're mindfully in your life, you're embodying your life in a really deep way. We feel guided, we feel connected, we feel protected. So it brings a groundedness to our everyday.
Can we tap into that? Is there a way that we can tap into the psychic abilities? And also, I've always had this sense that there's almost like, it's going to sound, you're woo-woo, so I don't even know why I'm feeling embarrassed, because you're going to be into this.
Bring it on, Shareefa.
I've always had the sense that there's a guide, like a spirit guide, and I've been told that more than once from strangers, complete strangers in the street, have literally come up to me and they're like, "There's a woman standing next to you. Did you know that?" Like, girl. So yeah, can we tap into that psychic ability? And also, do you believe that there's a spirit, kind of a guide that we will have? Because I feel like I have one.
100%. And I believe that because I feel that, and I've felt it forever and a day. And I also believe completely that we all can tap into our psychic ability. So it's like this thing, I know you talk a lot about it, having ADHD, right? And this idea that having ADHD means that you can't do things. But it's actually, having ADHD is a profound creativity. And once you kind of pull that in, you integrate it and it's in your life, you get on the right side of it. And I know that's kind of a strange way of looking at it, but it's the same with psychic ability. There are ways to tune into the psychic every day. When we stay open, we just have to ask, right? So it comes. When it comes to guides, every single human being is born with what I believe is a guardian angel. And all we have to do is ask for that communication to happen, and it will.
I've got to be honest, I think I'll be very scared if someone comes out of the shadows when I'm sitting in my house eating my pasta and it's like, "You're right, Shareefa."
I tell you what happens, Shareefa. They don't come out of the shadows like that because it's a very gentle energy. They meet you in the way that you need to be met, right? Because they are of service to your journey. And we also have other guides who can be part of our ancestral family.
That's the one I think I've got, and that's the one that I've been told more than once by different people that I've got, like a great great grandmother or something.
Which side of the family do you think she's on?
I don't actually know, but I don't know my dad. My dad is black and my mum is white. And something just tells me that she's like this really like big, warm, possibly like really curvy, kind of like black lady. Just that's what I get. Like I can almost see her in my head. I'm like, she's the kind of person I think she'd just give me like a really big cuddle. That's what I'm getting.
So, Shareefa, tell me, you didn't know Dad at all?
No, no, no. I didn't. And growing up mixed race, obviously, caused in a white town, caused a bit of adversity. But actually, there was a lot of things that caused adversity growing up. My mum was a lesbian. We grew up in like a very homophobic sort of area. I was a little black kid, didn't know my dad, obviously. I had ADHD. There was a few things. There was some much deeper stuff as well, some difficulties in my family. But ultimately, yeah, I always felt like this real misfit, this odd one out. But it's funny actually, because last night I was thinking, I write little poems sometimes. I never tell anyone about them, but they're just like secret poems I write. I wrote a little poem about, interesting it is that I grew up in like an LGBTQIA plus family as a little black girl with a neurodiverse condition, and I was chubby and all of these things. And all my life I wanted to fit in. And now in 2022, we're like in this place, in this space where all these things that I grew up are now like a hashtag and a trend. Like LGBTQ is a trend. It's like almost popular. It's really strange.
So, a lot of loneliness in your childhood, then, Shareefa.
A lot of difficulties, yeah. I mean, I won't go into it, but there's a lot of trauma, which I am working through with a therapist. It's been a while, and I think it's going to be probably a few more years of therapy to kind of get to where I need to be with it. But trauma is really hard to unpick and to understand. Obviously, you, as an adult, if you've dealt with childhood trauma, you know that this is something that's affecting you on a daily basis. You can feel it, but if no one's given you the tools to manage it, it can really rear its ugly head in very difficult ways. People really throw around that term, "I'm triggered." I'm triggered. But actually, being triggered is a real thing. Like, it's very real. And there have been times when I have been triggered by something and it has literally knocked me off my feet. I've had to crawl into my bed and just stay there for 2 days or 3 days.
You're still an ambassador for Calm, which is a mental health charity. Do you feel that these experiences in your childhood is why this is important to you as a charity?
That's a really good question. I think there's definitely elements of that, but I actually think my work with Calm is a bit more fueled by something else. Yes, I've had a lot of my own issues and difficulties with mental health, but also I've witnessed so much of it around me, in my family, with my very close friends. I mean, initially, how it actually started was I did this thing on my Instagram. I had a lot less followers back when I did this, and I did this thing on my Instagram. It was called "You OK, Hun," and I don't know if anyone listening to this who follows me or might remember me doing this, but it was years ago. And basically, every day for 30 days, I showed up to Instagram and I said very honestly how I was feeling. And I encouraged people to put in the question box back how they were feeling anonymously, very honestly, to just open up that conversation and be vulnerable with each other. Now, to be honest, I probably wouldn't do that now. I find it a lot more difficult to be vulnerable online than I used to, for lots of different reasons. But the vulnerability was so powerful, and the amount of people that were struggling was unbelievable. And because I'd opened myself up to that conversation, my inbox was just completely flooded. And I had this experience online, and I just thought, I want something. I want to be able to signpost people. I want to be able to have that thing where I can say, I am an ambassador for this charity, and they've told me this information, and so I'm going to relay that to you. So I try to be careful, because I do think a lot of influencers get ahead of themselves, and because people want to hear their opinion, suddenly they kind of say, I'm an expert in everything. Like, I'm going to talk about your hormones, and I'm going to talk about this nutrition, and you should be having that. And actually, it's really dangerous, because they're not experts. Ultimately, we have experts for a reason. So I always had this sense of wanting to be affiliated with a recognizable charity that does amazing work and can also educate me to educate my followers and help kind of spread their message and get the word out. So that's how Calm came about. And I've been an ambassador for them since 2019.
So, Shareefa, I want to ask you about body image and positive body image. Do you feel like you have a positive body image?
Yes, I have a very positive body image. I truly do, but I didn't. And I think this goes back to what I said earlier about finding your sense of self through adversity and challenges and pain and discomfort. I wasn't diagnosed with an eating disorder, but I had disordered eating that I would definitely say, if I went to see a professional about it, which I didn't at the time, but then they would have said I had an eating disorder. And I think it was very common for young women to experience this. But when I went to drama school, I trained at drama school when I was 18, and I lost 4 stone in 1 year. I had an apple a day. My hair wouldn't grow. My nails would break off. I would abuse laxatives and I would purge, all of these things, because I absolutely despised my body. I hated it. I hated it so much. And I had hated it my whole life, because I was this chubby kid when I was growing up. I was a little brown chubby kid with an afro and a lesbian mum in this town that did not accept that at all. And I was a complete outcast.
You just internalized that, and that was what you believed.
Couldn't even understand. I had boyfriends, but I couldn't even understand why. I was like, have you seen me? Like, do you know what I look like? I used to stand in the mirror at night and I used to pray to God. I used to be a very strong Christian as a kid. I used to pray to God, and perhaps this is like a manifestation thing here. And I used to say, God, please, please, please make the world see that I'm not ugly. I don't want people to think I'm ugly. It's funny because now I'm a model, so I imagine people don't think I'm ugly. I mean, maybe they do, I don't know. But I really would so intensely pray, please make me not ugly. So then attaching value to losing weight and gaining weight, that became a really big thing. When I'm smaller, that's better. And when I'm bigger, oh no. And then came modeling. And I remember my first time I got scouted to be even someone even mentioned me modeling, I honestly thought they were taking the piss out of me. I'm like, are you having a laugh? What do you mean, me? And it's been years and years and years of I tried everything actually to kind of like myself more. I did a whole phase of positive affirmations. Did that for a couple of years. Really intense. All my affirmations: I am beautiful. I am loved. I am it did definitely make me feel better at points, but ultimately, I never truly liked my reflection. But I somehow got to this point a couple of years ago where I looked in the mirror and I was like, it wasn't even like, I love what I see. Wow, the rolls. Wow, the cellulite. It was just acceptance. I like myself because I'm a good person, and it doesn't really matter what other people think, but I like myself. And the reason I liked myself was because I started to do stuff that I was really passionate about and really believed in, like working with Calm, projects that I was really passionate about that I was working on. And also on Instagram, Instagram has given me a lot of, not validation, but a lot of people saying, just seeing you exist in the world helps me feel better about me somehow.
You actually recovered from a disordered eating, like you say. I mean, incredibly restrictive, right, with that apple a day. And it feels like there's sort of been stages to it. So, like you say, a couple of years of positive affirmation, this moment where you look in the mirror of radical acceptance. There's just this moment, isn't there, where it's like, do you know what? Here I am. And returning to the essence of you, I'm a good person. There's something about that, that's very kind and compassionate to self.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to that idea of love and having love in your life. Like, I think the power of having love and having people around you that love and support you, and you love and support them in return, because it's not just about what they give to you, it's about what you give back. I really love this saying. It's this African saying called Ubuntu. Do you know Ubuntu? The idea that we are one and that we are a collective, and we're not just here for us, we are here for we, not me. And so I've always felt like it's going to sound like I'm virtue signaling a bit here, but I've always loved what I do, and I've always loved the plus size modeling element, because it's always, for me, the campaigns that I've done and the response that I've had, particularly from women saying, I needed to see that. I needed to see a woman with cellulite. I needed to see someone loving themselves and being confident, regardless of the fact that they have all the things we're taught to hate as women. I needed to see that because that helps me feel that I'm accepted. A huge part of what I do is knowing that it is helpful to other women. That kind of helps me to love it even more. So I feel like, just going back to the acceptance thing, is like, it's so much more than just about accepting what you see in the mirror. It's about accepting yourself and finding things that align with you, and loving that, and finding a life that's in tune with your values and your belief system, and surrounding yourself with those people.
So that brings us beautifully to the question of love, purpose, connection. And when I say those words to you, Shareefa, what do they bring up for you? What does it sound like?
Love, purpose, connection, for me, that's everything that we should kind of strive to achieve as human beings. I find it interesting how we value things and our belief system, how we've been brought up in the society we've been brought up. We value things, we value money, we value success, career success, but we don't seem to value as much love and connection, and the things that actually at the core of who we are as human beings, and the things that truly matter. It's very rare that we connect with ourselves and we take a moment to step out of our day and step away from our laptop and take ourselves out of the bubble that we get trapped in, which is, this is my life. I wake up every day. I have breakfast. I go to work. This is what I do. This is the clothes I wear. These are the people I see. This is the food I eat. And then afterwards, I'll have a drink after work and blow off some steam. But actually, if you separate yourself from all of that and think about who we are as souls, spirits almost, in the world, we are so much more. And I think connection is connection to other humans, is empathy, is connection to animals, connection to being mindful, connection to the elements, like the things we can't touch, but they're there. That feeling that, so one thing I always love, something I have so much value for in my life, is that feeling of putting on like a fresh pair of socks And like the feeling of when my feet are a bit cold, and then you put on a fresh pair of socks, and you like then your feet are all nice and warm, and you're walking around the house thinking, oh, my feet are so warm. Like, there's no monetary value to that. That is just a feeling, but there is so much value in that feeling.
We love that feeling of warm socks.
Mm.
Shareefa, thank you so much for joining me on Love Purpose Connection. It's been wonderful.
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed having the space to talk about things that I think and feel quite often, but I'm not particularly open about other than with my close friends. So I'm really grateful to have the space to talk openly about these things.
It's a great thing.
Oh, thank you.
To find out more about Shareefa, she's at Shareefa_J. You can find me at Estelle.Bingham or EstelleBingham.com. If you have any questions about the podcast, just send them there. This podcast is produced by Sarah Cudden. And until the next one, wishing you all more love, purpose, and connection.